Awesome. We are recording. So for those who don't know me, my name is Benny. I'm here with the Playground team. Playground is an app and a website to help childcare businesses with all of their business operations in one place. We're building a really, really cool product, launching a bunch of new features. Recently, we launched payroll. We are soon going to be launching a couple other features that we're very excited about. And so, very excited to continue building technology to support childcare businesses. But today, we are welcome with Kathy Ligon, who is the CEO of Hinge Advisors, and 23 years she's been the CEO of this company. She started it and has plenty of experience helping childcare businesses in multiple capacities, most recently buying, selling, brokering deals, and she has plenty of knowledge in this space on how to set your business up for success as you think about the future. So Kathy, without further ado, please take us away.
Awesome. Thank you, Benny. I'm happy to be here today. So thank you for having me. I see some awesome friends here and some new people to meet, and love this group size. So you guys, please feel free to use the chat. Ask your questions, let us know what you're thinking, and we definitely will save room at the end for anything that's specific to you. So thanks again for having me. I'm Kathy Ligon, and I have a company, as Benny said, that specializes in helping people exit their business in real estate or bring in financial partners if they're in a growth mode and they just want a partner to help them with the business acumen and financial side of their growth. So have about 30 people located across the country, and we do transactions nationwide. And I feel pretty blessed to be in this community and with people like you guys and able to do the work that we do. The second thing that we do, and which is my passion and a great big joy, is to help people become as financially healthy as possible. You'll see that the title of what I'm presenting today is the 5 Pillars of Purpose-Driven Profit. And I say those words intentionally because I feel like that people should understand that the majority of people got into the industry for a purpose, for a mission, for the ability to serve children and families and teachers. Also, at the same time, I feel like it's sometimes the perception that making a profit or the ability to thrive personally and professionally is at odds with their purpose or their mission. And my main message to people is not only is it not at odds, is not even possible. It is not possible for people who got into the industry to do purposeful work to sacrifice themselves and not thrive, both from a business and a personal standpoint. It's not possible. You have to have the profit, which is just one more tool in your business, to reinvest and engage and create something wonderful. You also have to have it personally, or you can't possibly do the mission that you got in this business for. So that's my bottom line today. And I want to talk to you guys about the 5 pillars of purpose-driven profit. A couple of things I'd like to say first. Here's my lovely team. I told you about us. I have to start here because this has been one of my greatest joys and longtime missions in the industry, is that we just launched a nonprofit in January and just got going 2 weeks ago, called Boost. And Boost has been set up to support the home and health crisis needs of early education teachers. And we have started giving out grants. We started giving out our grants about 2 weeks ago. So far, we have sent about $25,000 to many, many people with health crisis needs, with food insecurity, with accidents and health issues, and they're not able to work. I would appreciate it deeply from my heart if you guys would consider putting Boost in your giving plan. And we're making really good use of those donations, and would love for you guys, if you have someone in need, to let us know and go to by hinge.org. You can see the application there. You can also donate online. So thank you for your attention to that and letting me throw that little sales pitch in here. Follow us on social. We do a lot of events, webinars. We do a one-day financial deep dive called Thrive. We have a 3-day business conference coming up. I am thrilled to say that it sold out in 3.5 hours last week for this year, but get on the wait list. You never know. We would love to see you guys there. And so to frame up my 5 pillars of purpose-driven profit, in my former life, I was the first financial director and then COO and then growth leader of an organization that had 5 schools when I started. And in my 17 years there, we grew to 120 schools. And I had the pleasure as an accountant to go from this financial role to a growth role. And along the way, what I realized was that there was nowhere to go to figure out what a school looked like if it was financially healthy. And so I began to pay attention to what financial metrics look like in our company. Others would share their financial metrics, and I began to create a benchmark that is still the cornerstone of our work. And in the 35-ish years since I first started to develop that, very little has changed. Some slight tweaks, which I'll tell you about. But what I learned there was that if I could break down the 99 things you see on a financial statement into 5 controllable areas, then our decision makers felt more empowered, more in control. And it doesn't encompass every little thing, but in my opinion, these 5 things get you 95% of the way to financial health. So this is the cornerstone of my teaching. I'll also invite you guys to go to frameworkbyhinge.com. I think, should know that. And there you'll see our free benchmarking tool. And if you choose free assessment, upper right-hand corner, you can input your own school's license capacity, average tuition rate, and occupancy, and it will create a benchmark for you. It will populate every expense item. And what that will say to you is a similar school, given that same license capacity, tuition rate structure, thank you very much for that in the chat bar, would spend this amount in each category. So use that and go along if you want to while we talk about this information. Use it in the future. You can play what if games with your tuition rates if that's an area of opportunity for you. And you can really use that as a tool to see how your performance compares to the average school. So to get started with these, my 5 areas of focus are occupancy, or how full we are, tuition rates, discounts, salary cost, and rent or mortgage. So to start with, even though there are 5 things, 2 of those things need to be managed every single day, in my opinion. You should be focused on your occupancy and your staff cost every single day. The other 3 you can look at, minimum once a year, tuition rates, discounts, and rent or mortgage cost, sometimes in quickly changing environments once a quarter. But when you break it down even that small, and you train your managers and you get them to focus on 2 things that make the biggest difference, then you can focus them on daily management of occupancy and salary. So let's see what that means. Okay, first of all, on occupancy, and I say to people a lot, don't even go past this concept unless you have a healthy occupancy, because no amount of cost control is ever going to get you to financial health without a healthy number of children paying tuition in your building. You have way too many fixed costs to cover: management salaries, lead teacher salaries, rent, utilities, insurance, property tax. I could go on, you know, the expense load. But until you have a healthy amount of occupancy, you're never going to cost control your way out of it. In my mind, 70% full as compared to licensed capacity, and we could debate that, but won't get into that right now, is the beginning of financial health that gives you the resources to reinvest in your business, which you have to do constantly. You need a new bus, you've got to repair, you need a new playground, you need a new curriculum, you need a floater to help cover absences. When you get from 70 to 90, it's really kind of hard to go to 100% occupancy, but people do it. When you get in that range, you are in the area of financial health, because at that point, almost all of your expenses are covered. And that last 1 or 2 children in each classroom is where your true financial health lies. Most of your expenses are covered, and most of that tuition, excuse me, flows straight to the bottom line. So this is your most important pillar. I recommend that people don't even go past this strategy until they know they have a healthy occupancy, and focus every day on where your openings are, what marketing you can do to help build that enrollment, and what strategies you need to put in place to gain that enrollment. So you're going to enroll to capacity in each classroom is your goal. One more word about that. At times, it doesn't make sense to add one more child that could possibly go in that room if it means you need to add another teacher. However, if you could have a whole new teacher with a full appropriate ratio, and you need one more child, get that one more child, because that's the only place you get going to full capacity. But there are times where you have a 1 to 10 ratio in a classroom, and you could put 11 in the classroom. You're probably not going to put 11 in the classroom and hire a second teacher in that room. So simple example, but focus on classes with the greatest potential for profit. What I mean there is, historically, our profit lies in preschool ages, 3s, 4s, 5s. I know that those are volatile right now. I know we have some threats from universal pre-K public schools, other competitors. Luckily, where most of the industry saw infants and toddlers as loss leaders historically, after COVID, more people use that high demand for enrollment as an opportunity to right side those tuition rates and to get them to the place where they were actually at least break even. So focus on the classes for greatest potential for profit. Also, focus mainly on full-time enrollments. It's okay to use part-time enrollments or pair them. For instance, a Tuesday, Thursday enrollment paired with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just know that that can be hard on teachers, but a lot of people do that very successfully. Also, when you're in growth mode, part-time's great. Just be sure those families understand that there may be a point where you have to ask them to go full-time. So those are some strategies for occupancy, but focus there first. Second pillar is tuition rate. So this is the most difficult one. To set the tuition rate at the cost of care rate. What does that mean? First, let me say what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that our historic strategy of calling your competitors and finding out what they charge and making a strategy to be slightly under or over is not the way to strategize your tuition rates. There are a couple of issues with that. The first one is they might not be charging the cost of care rate either. They might be in fear of losing enrollment when our cost of care has changed drastically in the last 3 years. We have seen staff salaries increase reportedly from 30 to 50%, somewhere in there, with the majority of providers saying 30%. And about 20% of providers saying 50%. That's huge. when our main cost load is salaries, if they increase 50%, what has to happen to tuition rates? So you may have to be the leader in your community to set your tuition rates where they need to be to cover your cost of care. So not a good strategy just to compare yourself with others, and don't live in fear. Come on, people, we've got to do this. We've got to make ourselves thrive. We have to support our teams. We have to provide quality services, and it's tough. It's tough out there, and this is critical right now. Don't love it, but if you feel like you need to increase use the framework app to figure out what your tuition rates would need to be to get yourself to a healthy profit. Again, you know, I like 15% as a minimum. And remember, that doesn't mean that 15% is going in your pocket. It's going to reinvest in your company for capital improvements or new employees or future growth. So that's just the beginning of financial health. So one strategy is if you calculate you need to go up 20% on rates and you just go, there's no way my families can afford this, maybe go up slightly smaller on current families. Grandfather them, let them know communication is key, what you're doing for them, and go up what you need to on incoming families. In all of these strategies, be sure that in your billing system, you're charging the stated tuition rate, and then you apply a discount for any discount, grandfathering discounts. We're going to talk about discounts next. So you have the information to see the effect of your decisions around discounting. I think that I can't tell you how many times we do evaluation for a company, and what they've been doing is charging the discounted rate in their billing system. They have no effect of the discounts they're giving. And we regularly say to people, you're discounting $120,000 a year. You know, maybe you could cut that in half by focusing on specific discounts and hire another person, hire a floater. We know you're struggling. Give your teachers raises, do what you need to do. So at least know, you know, you can make any decision you want. At least know what the effect of your decision is. So that's tuition rates. Really, really hard, but critical in this environment. Okay, so I get a little preachy on this one. Again, discounting to me is our industry's greatest hidden danger. Why is it a hidden danger? From what I just said, that most people will charge the discounted rate in their billing system and have no idea the effect of their discounting. So no matter what you discount, change that, have the information. So here are kind of my thoughts on where discounting is. Don't mess with staff discounts. So historically, the industry would give free childcare to directors, assistant directors can go either way, and half price childcare to teachers. One thing I see owners neglect or not think about a lot is even if your school doesn't accept subsidy for families, can you gain subsidies for your teachers? If you can, then the teacher's not having to absorb half the cost and you're not having to absorb half the cost. So that's one strategy. A second one that I love is that many states are now paying for the childcare of childcare teachers. The beauty of that, it helps you recruit. Again, teachers not paying for half, you're not paying for half. So there's 6 states that have implemented that strategy. There are about 15 more in study. If you haven't heard that in your state, go to your decision makers and say, hey, what about this? Can we do this? Point to the other states that are doing it successfully. Makes a big difference. So don't mess with that one too much. It's too hard to hire already. Here are some things that the industry has either moved away from or you could consider being a leader in your market. First of all, many years ago, the industry stopped largely giving free or vacation days for the days that children don't attend. This is your best area of opportunity. And a lot of times, if you calculate you need to go up in tuition 20%, maybe you just go up 10% and you eliminate vacation or free days. This can cost you a lot of money, and your expenses continue whether the children are there or not. So this is your first big area of opportunity. Cut it out. The second one, and this is not quite as prevalent, but I'm seeing an increase in the number of companies not giving discounts for multiple children in the same family. Rule of thumb is usually 5 to 10% on the lesser tuition, but more and more companies are not doing that. On subsidy is a little trickier. So if you're a company or a school that discounts, in some states, of course, you're not allowed to charge parents the difference in what the subsidy rate is and what your stated rate is. You're not allowed legally to do it. And in some places where you are allowed to do it, some providers choose not to because they either perceive that their families can't afford it or their competitors don't do it. This is a tricky one because I truly believe that the majority of the subsidy rates are not at the actual cost of care rate to begin with. So it's really hard to discount that, but this one's tough. And then the last one I will mention are industry discounts. For instance, you are next door to IBM and you give their employees a 10% discount. The way I like to think about this is, what is IBM doing for you? If the answer is nothing, then those families probably would have come anyway. So go over to IBM, tell them what you're doing for them, see if they'll pay the difference. See if they'll promote you to their families. See if they'll send you a maintenance tech once a week. Will they cut your grass? Can they donate supplies? What can they do? Help them understand the benefit you are giving to them and to their employees. So any combination of these discount strengthening or reducing discounts in combination with tuition rate increases can really make a strong difference in your financial picture. Told you I got preachy on that one. Staff costs. So typically when someone says to me that I just can't meet your ratio of staff costs to revenue, I'll say a couple of things. The first thing is, usually the problem is not that you're overspending on staff. Usually the problem is you're not charging enough to make that ratio balance. So that's the typical problem. Also, I will say best strategies are management by walking around. Where can we, don't compromise your core teaching times, but where can we cut a couple of minutes? Don't underestimate the power of the 15 minutes early and late. Train your team that when your ratio is in the right place, somebody can go home. Anything I love about today's workforce is they can't wait to go home. They love their personal time. So train them to say, hey, we're at the place, can I go home? And with all of their support, because those numbers can shift really quickly in the afternoon, then you can help preserve a little bit of extra time. And if you choose not to send them home, just have them do something else. Is there extra cleaning? Can they do some paperwork? What else can they do? So use them wisely. But staff costs is tricky right now. And a lot of people will say to me, are you going to change your benchmark? The answer is no, I'm not. Because the answer is not that you are going to suffer in the long run and be less financially healthy because it costs more to hire people now. The answer is we're going to find a way to make the revenue stream healthy again so that our metrics work out. We already, my benchmark at 70% full is 45% on staff salaries, which would include a director, assistant director, teachers, and all of their pay, not benefits or payroll taxes, but just pay. That's getting harder and harder to do, but I feel like we have to tackle how are we going to right side the revenue stream so those balance again, or else we're not going to be here. And then you're not helping anyone. So Really tough one. I agree. So here's what the framework app looks like. You can see with each one of these toggles that you can expand it. You can see what all is included in that category. So you have staff cost, facility, program, and administrative. And you can play around in this second set of numbers with the occupancy to see what it would look like if you gained a few more children, or if we have another, God forbid, COVID and your occupancy drops suddenly, what do you need to do in that situation to be sure that you're stable? So that's what it looks like. Last pillar, facility cost, and of course this is because it's our second largest expense after staff cost for most people. Some people get a facility donated, but that's not most people's reality, and those people often choose to shift that savings into reduced tuition or higher pay for their staff. But for most people, it's the second highest expense. If you are not in healthy metrics, and we also have some there that you'll see on the framework app, consider renegotiating your lease or your mortgage. Could you, if you're leasing, could you ask your landlord to reduce the rent in exchange for a longer term lease? What your landlord wants is for you to be financially healthy. Landlords and tenants want the same thing. Could you ask your landlord to invest in your facility's branding or an upgrade or a complete remodel in exchange for higher rent? So I'm a landlord. I had a tenant come to me and say, hey, we need $200,000. We want to invest in upgrading the building. Will you give that to us? We'll give you more rent. I went to my bank and said, could you increase my mortgage and give me $200,000? And they said, here you go. I handed the money over. My building's now beautiful, and it's a win-win for everyone. So a great strategy, use your landlord's money. Also, ask your landlord if they have growth opportunities for you and if you're in growth mode. And that's a great way to expand your relationship. Definitely invest in exterior appeal. It's the after reputation or a referral over to you. That's the second reason people cite for enrolling. They drove by, it looks great. Don't underestimate the power of the exterior, which includes beautiful signage, a well-kept lawn, a nice playground. So invest in your exterior. Here's the facility cost section of framework expanded. Real quickly, those were our 5 pillars, but a few other things to touch on. A couple of quick things on program cost strategies. Just be sure you're bidding all of your program costs, relationships annually, food, supplies, lawn care, all of those things. There was a big push after COVID during COVID, and then it continued afterwards, for parents to bring the children's lunch, citing possible allergies and also family preferences. If you choose to do this reduces your obligation to juice, milk, snacks, and could cut as much as 4% off your expense load that you could then shift over to staff cost or something else that helps your school in a better way. Marketing has become much less expensive, but employ strategies for social media and less expensive strategies than the crazy things we used to do, like yellow pages and billboards, which are crazy now. Program cost section. On your admin cost, invest in what this parent group is looking for. So billing systems, automatic billing systems, and payment systems for efficiency are a must. Cameras in the classroom, parent communication apps, all not a luxury anymore, just a necessity to appeal to today's parent groups. And the administrative cost section. So that is the core of the 5 pillars of financial health, and I am more than happy to answer some questions if you guys have some.
Yeah, go ahead and send your questions over to the chat. We can also unmute you if you'd like to ask your questions. verbally. Kathy, thank you for that wonderful content. Very, very insightful stuff. A lot of good takeaways. I'm sure people are going to have to rewatch this to make sure they absorbed all that information.
Sure. Favorite thing to talk about, as you can tell. I will real quickly, while we're seeing if anyone has a question, I will really quickly say that I just sent my first book to Amazon for publishing. And the reason I put the energy into that, and it is called The 5 Pillars of Purpose-Driven Profit, so greatly expanded content. But the reason I've talked myself into putting the time into that is that all of the proceeds will be donated to Boost. And we would appreciate your support in that. It'll probably take a couple of months for it to be available for you to order from Amazon. But look forward to that book helping some people with greater strategies and also helping Boost with donations that could help preschool teachers. Thank you, Pamela.
Kathy, I'm curious on your take between full year enrollment versus, I guess, summer, winter, fall enrollment.
Yeah, good question, Benny. It's really school dependent. You know, there are some schools that have higher after school populations in the summer and can actually be more highly enrolled in the summer than the school year. Some schools don't have after schoolers at all, you know, and of course would have school year numbers that would be higher. So it's really dependent. I would just try to average the occupancy, you know, at 70 to 90% over the course of the year. But good question. Opinion on tuition rates based on daily rates versus breaking tuition based on ages. Interesting. So I would be curious to know whether the daily rates are charged whether the child attends or not. If that's the case, and I know one company, and it's a big company that charges daily rates and only when the children attend, and it works beautifully for them. I've seen others try that and not be quite so successful. This company is successful because they have to really charge up. And what I mean by that is they can't take what would be a cost of care rate and divide it by 5. They really have to pad that number to account for the amount of absences that don't pay when they're not there. A little bit difficult to manage your staff. So that's, you know, that's my just like basic thought on tuition rates that are charged daily. Thank you for the question. I'd love for you to get in touch. Benny has put my email address there and company website. So thank you for that.
Kathy, I'm also curious, given all of, I guess there was a bunch of money during COVID being funded into early childhood programs. Given a lot of that is starting to dry up, how do you propose programs reshape their finances, make sure they're still resilient and set up for success moving forward?
Yeah, great question, Benny. So the biggest problem that I saw that has really caught people unaware is that they were putting one-time grant funds in their top line revenue line. And so when they looked at the metrics for what they were spending and what their bottom line looked like and what their expense percentages were, it looked like they were fine. When what we recommended to people was to put those one-time grant funds below the line, below the net income line, because what you wanted to do was begin to work on your cost structure and really work on resetting tuition rates so that you would be fine when that money stopped. So what we found was that a lot of people, unfortunately, are still suffering from that a little bit now that that money is gone. And the key was to work on your tuition rate. So after COVID, historically, companies will go up on tuition once a year and enough to cover inflation, which is typically 3 to 5%. What we saw after COVID for about 2 years was multiple tuition rate increases a year and more in the 8 to 12% range. in January of this year, 2024, we started to see some softening of parent tolerance for that when they were like, okay, that was fun, but we're kind of at the breaking point now. And those schools were okay by the time the grant funding ran out. I encourage people that if you didn't do that, just be bold, take bold action now. Grandfather if you have to, but really figure out what your cost of care rate is and get that right-sided, because I don't, there's some state initiatives coming, but not to the degree we saw during COVID. So I don't see that happening again, and we have to take bold action to be sure that we don't get caught in a difficult situation.
Wonderful. Thank you for that answer. Pam is asking if you are familiar with any payment processing companies. Her current companies, the expenses keep going up for fees. So if you have any ideas there, Pam, I'll say come check us out at Playground. We're happy to chat more and show you what we have. But Kathy, I don't know if you have any ones that you.
Well, that's you, right?
Yeah, we do offer that service. So I'm happy to chat more with you about that as well.
So I'd speak with Benny first, of course.
Yeah. Kathy, I'm curious, after this talk, someone that has heard you speak and says, okay, I have all those 5 pillars down, I'm feeling good, and I want to think about my future. How does Hinge come into that? How do they start to think about exiting, their business?
Oh, yeah. So I have to add real estate in with that because we generally do both. So we offer free business and real estate valuations for anyone that's considering selling. And there are a couple of beauties to that. So the first thing I will say is we're not going to be your pushy broker saying, no, you got to sell. We want to arm people with the information they need to make an intelligent decision at the time that's right for them. So the first thing I would suggest is get a professional who knows the industry to give you a professional opinion of the value of your business and your real estate. If they were to decide that that was something they wanted to pursue, then talk with that person. I would love to be the person, but whoever you feel comfortable with, to explain to you the process, what you can expect, what kind of buyers they bring to the table, how they preserve confidentiality, how they manage a difficult process, diligence and quality of earnings, how they really protect you and your business in that process. So our mission is to help people be as financially healthy as possible. So then they're open for opportunity. And you really never know when that's going to come. It could come or that you need to do something quickly. The only other thing I'll say is that it's usually counterintuitive to consider an exit when you're doing really well. I hate it when we get the call from people that say, oh, I'm in big trouble, or I've had a health issue, or I've had a legal issue, and now the business value's eroded, which also erodes the real estate value. So think about that process when you're at your best and you're really strong. But we're certainly happy to help people and look at their business. Even if they say, no, I'm not ready yet, sometimes we can say, okay, well, over the next couple of years, maybe if you do A, B, and C, you could increase your value from this to this. So that we like to work with people way ahead of their plans for an exit.
And so what do you see as the current environment, having come out of COVID 2024? Are more businesses now more open to selling? Are the financials stronger than before?
Yeah, we do have a pretty good strength in financials in that occupancies are usually high. So we're in a high demand market. However, a lot of the industry still struggles with their ratio of salaries. What I will say is that we're in a seller's market. There's huge demand for businesses in real estate. And we came out of COVID. Let me give you credit for something for COVID, as hard as it was. The rest of the world stood up and said, whoa, what is this childcare thing? Look what they did. They just navigated this whole thing, stayed open, served communities, served families, kept teachers working, kept children learning. we want to invest in this. And so we've never seen such high demand and values for businesses. Real estate's kind of stable. Interest rates are affecting that slightly, but not terribly. And, you know, the combination of the two, we're still ahead. So it really is a very strong seller's market right now.
Nice. Well, hopefully someone here might be ready to take that next step to open discussion, and they'll get in touch with you. So
One day we've got you when you're ready.
if anyone has any other questions, go ahead and send to the chat. If not, you can email me or Kathy after the fact. We'll get back to you. And the webinar will be sent out to everyone to watch on demand whenever you want. Kathy, thank you so much for this session. Really insightful. You truly are an expert in the space, and it was wonderful to have you on with us.
Thank you for having me, Benny, and also just really appreciate what you guys are doing for your customers, and this educational piece is amazing. Love that it reaches more people, and I was just happy to be here, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a nice afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.